This is Alan Irby, Chief Deputy with the West Carroll Sheriff's Office. Today's date is February the 9th, 2023. The time is 18:45 hours. The place is West Carroll Parish CID. I'll be taking a statement this afternoon from Tony Jones. Tony's a white male, gives his date of birth is 4/28/78, and resides at a residence located at 1438 Highway 2 in Oak Grove. I'll be taking the statement from Tony in reference to a self-inflicted gunshot wound of his wife, Miss Crystal McCrory-Jones.
Hello, and welcome to a twisting tale from a small Louisiana town, one where a sudden death, a suspicious pillow, and a mysteriously missing, then found bullet casing raise more than a few eyebrows. Our focus is Crystal McCrory-Jones. Her story doesn't start with tragedy. It starts with family, ambition, and the everyday hustle of a cheerful woman.
So, what y'all think about Mother's Day? It's May 13th. It's on a Sunday. It's on a Sunday. One of them Sundays. We need to all get together. I propose everybody come to Vicksburg, Mississippi. That's right. That's where I live, up in Mississippi. Or Dane's house, or I don't know, but we need to figure it out. We can't just wait till last minute. Okay?
Wait. No, wait. Feel it? Oh! Why did you break it? Let me kiss. Let me kiss. Oh, let me kiss. Let me kiss.
Crystal was tight with her siblings, Dane and Jana, and lived in Oak Grove, Louisiana, with her husband Tony Jones. She was on the verge of new beginnings, passing an important insurance exam, becoming a first-time grandma. She loved organizing, color coding, and sending random text messages filled with positivity. By all accounts, Crystal was someone with plenty to look forward to, until February 9th, 2023, when she was discovered dead under circumstances that didn't quite match a neat story of suicide. Over the next chapters, we'll dive into the day she died, the evidence left behind, including a certain pillow and a bullet casing that showed up way too late, and the curious behavior of her husband, Tony Jones. Grab your notepads, folks. There's a lot to unpack. Before everything fell apart, Crystal and Tony ran Inner Peace Martial Arts, a local dojo where children and adults learn kicks and discipline under their guidance. At face value, it was a wholesome community fixture. Behind the scenes, Tony's contracting license was revoked in 2018, but he still took on side jobs. If you peeked into Oak Grove's rumor mill, you'd hear Tony wasn't exactly squeaky clean. Stories circulated about possible misconduct with underage girls, a child protective services incident, and a cozy relationship with the West Carroll Sheriff's Office.
On the underage girls, tell me what you know about that.
I know that my wife is a family nurse practitioner, and she had kind of heard through the grapevine through some other nurses that Tony had brought Cheyenne in at one point because her hymen was broken, and they tried to play it off like it was about a bicycle accident.
That's the daughter?
Yeah. And
That's not Crystal's daughter?
No.
That's a child.
His child from a previous relationship.
yeah. I also know that his ex-wife has a restraining order on him, the one before Crystal, and that's what she cited, that he was messing with her little girl.
Jana Jones.
Shanna Jones.
SHANNA.
So we've got a pattern of conduct here.
You need to go to the chiropractor.
I do.
Yeah, man.
I do.
So we've got, got that with his daughter Cheyenne Brokenheimer. Okay.
Shanna.
And that Shanna, Shanna Jones.
Do y'all know where she's located?
She still lives in Bastrop.
She's in Bastrop.
I think so.
And I can text your address. I can reach out. That was the end of their divorce. The district attorney didn't take it any further. CPS found him guilty of, I don't know what the exact charge was, but it was a crime against a child where he was inappropriate contact with a child, and it was made to where he cannot be with.
You don't have.
That's not to say he was indicted or anything. Meanwhile, Crystal had bigger fish to fry. She was studying for a national insurance certification and preparing to be a grandmother. She was also noticing an odd pattern. The martial arts studio's enrollment was plummeting. Parents were pulling kids out. Why? She suspected it might be related to Tony's questionable activities. So, we have this married duo sharing a life and business. But as cracks start forming, you can guess who's at the center: Tony. And soon, Crystal's quiet suspicions would push her to investigate the man she once trusted. It's the weeks before Crystal's death, and the vibe at Inner Peace Martial Arts is anything but peaceful. As enrollment tanks, Crystal decides to get proactive. She begins tracking Tony's movements using his phone's location history via Google. She updates their Ring doorbell camera, something Tony would later claim was offline. All the while, she's finishing her insurance studies, excited for her future. The last thing on her mind, according to her family, was giving up on life. So if you hear Tony's "she was depressed, suicidal" spiel later, keep this in your back pocket. She was ready to conquer the world, not leave it. Tensions built behind closed doors, but the big bombshell was about to drop on February 9th, the day everything changed. February 9th, 2023. Let's get minute by minute on Tony's whereabouts, courtesy of his Google timeline, thanks to Crystal logging into his account. 8:06 a.m., Tony leaves the house, 1438 LA2, Oak Grove. 8:54 a.m., arrives at 5503 Candace Lane, Bastrop, supposedly to fix a fridge for a guy named Darren Billings. 9:59 a.m., leaves Candace Lane. 10:53 a.m., arrives at 305 E Main Street, Oak Grove, aka the West Carroll Sheriff's Dept, which Tony's phone has marked as work. Meanwhile, the official coroner's timeline pegs Crystal's time of death at around 11 a.m. If that's accurate, Tony is conveniently at the sheriff's office. Next, 11:09 a.m., Tony leaves the sheriff's department. 11:11 a.m., arrives at the local bakery barn, 105 Constitution Ave, stays till about 11:53 a.m. 12:01 p.m., heads over to Forest High School, 158 Clover Street. He claims he was there all day working. Tony checks out his daughter Cheyenne at 2:43 p.m. Then from 3:03 to 3:10 p.m., his driving is bizarrely slow, with a short pause. He goes to Sonic at 3:25 p.m., leaves at 3:57, hits Walmart at 4:03, leaves 4:11, and does a random Google search for a medical clinic at 4:16, allegedly checking if Crystal made a 2:30 appointment. So that's an hour and a half late, bud. By 4:44 p.m., Tony calls Dane saying he had Deputy Chuck Harris do a welfare check because Tony was oh so busy at the dojo. But guess what? The location data doesn't show Tony at the dojo. It shows him drifting around town. Chuck Harris finds Crystal's body.
So her husband actually called for a welfare check. He called a deputy, a friend of his, on his personal cell phone, a deputy Chuck Harris, to conduct a welfare check because Crystal had not answered her phone.
And then he's the one who actually found her?
That's correct. He went into their home and Tony talked him through it and told him the door was unlocked and led him to their bedroom where he discovered Crystal. Tony initially called that's her husband, initially called my cell phone. I missed his call, so he called my older brother. And my older brother then called me and notified me.
Tony arrives home at 4:51 p.m. The drive time from his last stop is about 14 minutes, exactly normal speed. Jana, on the other hand, floors it from her home in Bastrop and arrives at 5:08 p.m. She sees the coroner's vehicle, yellow tape, and Tony telling her it's a single gunshot wound to the head. A little too precise, a little too soon.
So once I got to the crime scene, her husband told me that it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That's the first thing out of his mouth. And as I'm standing at the crime tape, I see a couple of officers, not that many, and the coroner, and no one speaks to me. Tony is there with almost his entire family. They ended up coming over, speaking to me, saying that my sister was depressed and that she was taking an antidepressant and that they just couldn't believe it happened. And the coroner approached Tony and told him, we still have to do an autopsy, which took me back a little bit because I didn't understand why he was saying we still have to do one. They came over and they told Tony that they were going to bring her body out. Now, at this point, no cop has spoken to me. Nobody has asked me who I was or anything about me being there. Mm-hmm. In the middle of this, I was only there for approximately 47 minutes. And in those 47 minutes, Tony turned and looked at me and said, do you want to have her funeral in Bastrop, which is the town that we grew up in, or Oak Grove, which was the town she passed in? So before we could even bring her body out, he's asking me about funeral arrangements. Right. Like, my mind was not on funeral arrangements. I was still in shock.
And that, folks, is the day that turned the McCrory family's world upside down. Let's peek inside the bedroom. According to the coroner and law enforcement, Crystal was found on or near the bed, dressed only in a bathrobe and underwear. But here's where it gets interesting. 1. The pillow. Crime scene photos show a pillow near her body, with a bullet hole. Which is odd, it's less likely for someone to commit suicide while holding a pillow over their face. What's even more odd, the pillow was never mentioned to the family by any of the investigators. The pillow was completely dismissed. Poor police work. 2. The bullet casing. On day 1, investigators did not find a casing in that small 15 by 15 room. Then, 8 days later, Tony calls up Crystal's brother. Hey, guess what I found? The missing shell casing, right on a makeup stand. That's the same makeup stand investigators or cleaners would have presumably looked over. How does a shell casing travel so far from Crystal's body if she shot herself while in bed? Shouldn't the shell casing land somewhere on or by the bed? If you look at where Crystal and the bed are located, you'll see the makeup stand in the right corner by the chair with the hairdryer in this picture. How does a bullet casing travel this far? Landing perfectly planted on the makeup stand by the mirror. Very odd and highly unlikely. 3. Bruises and missing fingernail. Funeral directors pointed out bruises on Crystal's arms and inner thighs, plus a missing fingernail on her left ring finger. Could it be signs of a struggle? 4. Immediate conclusion. Despite these oddities, the word suicide circulated instantly. Tony told people that Crystal was depressed, on medication, and had simply ended her life. But if you take a gander at that pillow, potential muzzle or contact evidence could have been there, or maybe not. We just don't know, because no official report about pillow testing or ballistic spatter has ever seen the light of day. Combined with the shell casing fiasco, you have red flags for days. Enter Jana, Crystal's sister, who sees this all as very fishy. She contacts a handful of law enforcement folks, Sheriff Mike Tubbs over in Morehouse Parish, a retired deputy named Libby, and eventually, the West Carroll Sheriff, Scott Matthews. Her phone practically melts from the calls. She begs them, look, something's not adding up. The bullet casing reappears after a week. Tony's timeline is shaky, and Crystal had suspicious bruises. Please investigate thoroughly. Then there's the laptop fiasco. Tony hands Jana a laptop, presumably not realizing Crystal was logged into Tony's Google account, revealing deleted contacts the night before Crystal's death, including people like a coroner and a chief deputy. A brand new phone delivered the day Crystal died. FedEx dropped it at 1:16 p.m. No one answered the door. Tony activates it at 8:35 p.m. that evening, after Crystal's body is discovered. Tony's Google search 4 days later. When is it appropriate to date after a spouse's death? Jana's putting these puzzle pieces together like a pro. You've got credit card bills that were unpaid, but now money's flowing in. Tony's booking a trip to Hawaii, renting a storage unit in Tennessee. Just normal grieving widower things. Sarcasm alert. If there was a recipe for suspicion, he's following it to a T. Let's circle back to the timeline because it's crucial. By 11:00 a.m., the coroner says Crystal is deceased. Tony, from 10:53 to 11:09 a.m., was at the sheriff's department, then moseyed to the bakery barn, left at 11:53, arrived at Forest High School at 12:01. He checks out his daughter at 2:43 p.m., then basically kills time, Sonic, Walmart, until around 4:44 p.m., when he notifies Dane of Crystal's death. So from 11:09 a.m. to 4:44 p.m., Tony's movements are, let's say, not the movements of someone in a panic. No frantic phone calls about Crystal until the very end. No meltdown or speeding home. Instead, he gets a burger, maybe a slushie, does some shopping, and Googles a medical clinic hours after Crystal's supposed doctor appointment time. Then there's the bullet casing that redefines weird. 8 days after the official search, Tony plucks a casing off the vanity. The sheriff later claims it was visible in crime scene photos from day one, but the family never saw any such photo. If they missed a casing in a tiny bedroom, what else was overlooked? Like that pillow evidence. Jana also notices Tony's suspicious requests. After finding the casing, he specifically asks Dane, "Don't bring this up to Detective Irby." Why not? Because maybe it looks a tad staged? You tell me. Eventually, Jana, Dane, and cousin Kara get a sit-down with Sheriff Scott Matthews on February 23rd. They present a thick stack of documents, phone logs, Google location maps, suspicious receipts, Tony's contact deletions. The sheriff acknowledges that Tony is a chronic liar, but stops short of calling him a criminal.
Tony Jones does not work for me.
Okay, good. Because he has on his Facebook, he does. I'm
I
just saying.
can't help what
just
he
saying.
has on his Facebook.
It's like
I
he's the
can't-
one
listen
that
to me,
makes
ma'am,
us
please.
feel crazy.
Please, just listen to me, because I'm really directing this to you. I think that the other guys here have a pretty good understanding of who I am and what I stand for. I can't help what he has on his Facebook page. He could put on there, "I'm Donald Trump's pimp." I can't help that. He could put on his, he could go down to the donut shop in the morning and tell everybody in there, "I work directly for Scott Matthews and I have $1 million in the bank." I can't help what he goes out in the public and says. That's not for me to control.
I understand.
I can't help that he may have had 10 affairs.
Yeah. It is illegal to pose as a police officer. It's illegal. I mean, I know that. I know what you're saying. But I just know it's like, who does that? I don't know.
He knows
You're
Tony's
not
a liar.
wrapping your mind around,
He
man,
knows Tony's
what
a
I
liar.
have already conceded to you guys. I know he's a liar.
Okay. I just want y'all to know that. I don't want
You
to
have to know that. And at this point in this conversation, I don't think you've come to that realization. He is a liar. Is him being a liar against the law? No, it's not. You've got to accept he's a liar. He's not the person that he portrays himself to be out in the public or to anybody. Is that a crime? It is not. There are people that come in here on a daily basis and attack me by spreading things about me and my wife in the community.
Yeah.
Would I love to arrest them? You damn right I would.
Right.
Nothing.
It's not a crime.
I don't want you to feel like anything I'm saying is a.
He references ballistic testing on the firearm, suggests the bullet casing in photos.
You know, to me, that's kind of a red flag because it's such a small bedroom. It's a 15 by 15 bedroom. It's not like you're looking for a shell casing outside in those
So let
parking
me
lots.
very quickly address that before we get too far off of that. You have to know and understand. Sometimes a shell casing is very hot when it ejects from a pistol.
Right.
And when it hits something, it may stick to it.
Right.
We, after we could not locate the casing within the room, because I'm telling you,
Y'all looked. I know you did.
we looked hard.
I know you did, and so did cleaners. That's what I'm getting at.
So we kind of assumed, okay, it could have possibly been in her hair.
Right. I get that. Yeah.
And I may touch a nerve here, okay?
That's
So
okay.
please bear with me. The blood that was in her hair, blood very sticky.
Right.
Okay, possibly it's in her hair, possibly it's within her clothing.
Correct.
That she had on. She had on a robe, a bathrobe. It's possible that it could be within that robe.
Right.
So when they do an autopsy, their body is sent to the autopsy to the doctor just as we find it.
Right.
Robe, clothes, and all. We were hoping that casing
Right.
would be found by the doctor when he does the autopsy.
Then that makes perfect sense. I
Okay.
get that, but what my concern is.
Okay, so hold it,
Okay.
bear with me. So after Tony calls and says, hey, I found the casing, here's where it was at.
Yeah.
Alan, my chief deputy, goes back and he looks at the photos that he took. There's the shell casing in the photo.
In a picture. Okay.
It's there.
Okay, that alleviates that concern.
So the makeup stand, we did not search it with a fine-tooth comb like we did everything else, because it was 5 to 6 feet.
Right.
Y'all know how far it was
Right.
from the bed. It's 5 to 6 feet, probably, maybe even further than that. We just did not search that top of that
Right. Okay.
makeup stand, maybe like we should have.
Okay.
But again, there in the photo, you can plainly see the shell casing is laying there.
Okay. That'll leave it.
How five sets of eyes overlooked that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that does address that.
Please know and understand. I have no doubt in my mind it was an oversight on our part that we didn't see it. It's laying there,
Right.
and you can plainly see it in the photograph.
Okay.
So.
Well, that was my concern. It kind of seemed to me like that maybe it was placed there after the fact, after all the cleaners and everybody did, but that alleviates that concern. But here's another thing. When we were talking about.
Meanwhile, the day after the funeral, February 20th, Crystal was cremated, 2 days before the official autopsy came in. Jana had tried to delay it, worried new evidence, like that late-found casing, might spark a deeper look. No such luck. The final autopsy arrives on the 22nd, basically confirming a gunshot wound but not answering the million-dollar question. Was it self-inflicted or not? The district attorney's office? Silent as the grave as far as the family knows. Any further investigation? Hard to tell. Jana wonders if that means the case is quietly brushed under the rug. It's a tangled web. Here we stand at the end of the story, but not the end of the mystery. February 18th, Crystal's funeral was emotional beyond words. Jana and Dane saw their sister in a coffin, noticing bruises on her arms and thighs. Tony walked around quietly, collecting donations for funeral costs, and days later, searching how to date after a spouse's death. The dreaded question looms: could Crystal have ended her own life? The family says absolutely not. They point to her brand new career path, her excitement over becoming a grandmother, her text messages filled with future plans. They remind us, if a pillow was used, if the bullet casing magically appeared, if Tony's entire day was, well, suspect, why would the local authorities treat it so casually? In the end, Crystal's truth remains elusive. The pillow in the crime scene photos is a silent witness with no known forensic analysis. The bullet casing that emerged late is a red flag flapping in the breeze. Tony's timeline reads more like a meandering afternoon than a desperate search for a missing wife. Put them all together, and you have a swirl of suspicions that can't be easily dismissed. And that's the question for all of us. Is it a simple suicide or something far more sinister? For now, the case is open, but not exactly active. Jana, Dane, and those who loved Crystal keep asking the same thing. Who will truly investigate, and when? This has been In Pursuit of Crystal's Truth. If any new evidence emerges, or if you, dear viewer, have insight, don't hesitate to contact the relevant agencies. Share this story. Sometimes it just takes one person to shine a light where no one else has. To Jana, I hope your sister's story gets attention. Your dedication to get justice for your sister will pay off. Just keep fighting. For the viewers, please go sign the petition to help get Crystal case investigated properly. Link is in the description. Also, join the Justice for Crystal group on Facebook. Link is also in the description. Let's get justice for Crystal.